All right, so let's talk a bit about what happens in the childhood phase. And so we are highlighting this because what we want to do is to give you a sense of some of the mechanics and the structure of your consciousness. And so when you have this information, when you understand more of the mechanics and the structure of your consciousness, you are armed with data that helps you to contextualize your own personal experience. It's like understanding the lay of the land. And so we want to talk about what happens in the childhood phase a bit for context, for you to sort of make sense of your own personal experiences in this regard. And so in childhood, what happens in that phase, especially from age 0 to 7, by the time you have your first Saturn square, Saturn squaring its natal position, what this means, or what happens in this process, is that there is a release from the soul consciousness into the personality, the core patterns and complexes of energy that have come to be resolved in the lifetime. And so the soul would, let's say, hold these energy complexes in, let's say, abeyance, in a temporary state of disuse, and it would release by a certain time in the childhood phase, release these energies into the personality so that you have the raw material. And so you're taking essentially energy complexes that have accrued or accumulated through timelines. You're taking these things and, well, the soul is releasing them into your personality, meaning that the you know yourself to be, your soul is, let's say, in a kind of time capsule fashion, releasing the energy complexes and patterns that you've come to work on in your physical lifetime. And so what happens is that in that childhood phase, these energy complexes that represent patterns that you've come to heal, they are actually, let's say, downloaded into your biological structure. They are downloaded into the cellular code of your body. And so that's what happens in that time. Your soul consciousness is responsible for releasing into your personality and biological structure. It's responsible for releasing those energy complexes into your system so that you are good, so that you begin the process of working these issues out in your life. And so the purpose on one level of childhood wounding or events in the childhood which would be considered wounding or painful or traumatic of the like, they are meant to act as trigger mechanisms to release the energy complex that you've come to deal with. And so that's important to understand that as you get a sense of the lay of the land. So to use that Saturn symbology, and again the astrology is a way of understanding your reality. You are trying to symbolize the deeper processes of your reality. You're putting them into symbolic code for ease of understanding. That's what the astrology is. But the astrology is referring to deeper dimensions of reality that are not, let's say, the symbols stand in for these deeper activities. And so to go back to that Saturn symbolism, that Saturn would encapsulate how it is that certain energies now become locked into the physical biological structure. So it is a kind of cementing, so to speak, and taking those energies in from the soul and locking them into your structure, so to speak, so that you now have them inside of you so that you can work on them. And these events that happen in childhood to do with parents or other events that would be painful, they are, in a manner, they are release mechanisms. They are the matches that you light a match, they trigger the release of these energy complexes that the soul keeps in abeyance until you're ready, and you are responsible then for the work of healing and releasing these patterns. But you have to feel, and you have to, let's say, collect the energy residue of those complexes and patterns so that you can work on them throughout your life and to heal them. And so that's what happens in childhood, meaning that in that square Saturn phase, the Saturn cycle gives you clues as to what is released into your physical mechanism. So the soul consciousness is going to release into your physical biological structure and cellular code. It's going to release the energy complexes, the frequencies and patterns that are held in the soul consciousness that are in need of healing. But you have to do it whilst you're in a body. And so that's what we want to leave you with, to just have you understand that as part of the mechanics of consciousness. And so by no means are we saying that you are destined to keep these things in your structure. Far from it. It's about doing the work whilst you're in physical form, and to have the rewards of healing, and through a commitment to your own consciousness and a commitment to evolving your consciousness, you are taking these energy complexes and transmuting them and moving to a higher frequency. You're moving into new potentials. You're moving into new energies that come about when you have transmuted the patterns and the forms of these old energies that are in your soul record. And so the childhood phase is a phase in which the soul kind of drip releases some of these energy patterns so that you have access to them, so that you can heal them throughout your experience.